right? No? Okay, I'll try that again.
Like,
Dude, this car just hit me.
What?
This car behind just hit me.
Really?
Yep. Hold on. Let me just check. Just hit me? Oh, you hit this? Okay. Yeah.
Is she driving away?
No, but it hit the tire. What is up, internet world, and welcome back to Accelerate. My name is Mike, and the man behind the camera is Ian, and today we're bringing the 2024 Hummer EV SUV with driving impressions. In Watts to Freedom mode, which is GMC's launch control on the new Hummer SUV EV. Now, this thing does squawk, my seat vibrating like crazy, foot to the ground. Let's propel this beast. I got 60% battery, and let's go. Oh my God. This 16.
Oh, 3.96.
3.96, baby.
Oh.
So the moment you've been waiting for, driving impressions of the all-new 2024 Hummer EV SUV. We couldn't say it on our last video because of embargoes. But I will tell you that it's obviously a GMC product. It's not going to drive too much different than most of their other big trucks, except the fact that this Ultium battery on the bottom weighs as much as a 911 Turbo, which means it's planted to the ground, different than a Denali or a Suburban product. The other crazy part about it is that you have crab walk, which makes this thing look so cool. It's just such a good party trick, but it actually does work when you're rock crawling, unlike the mudding we did the other day. Now there's two different trims you can get. You can get the regular one, which is this, which is $5,000 less than the extreme off-roading package that gives you 18s. And around corners in these windy roads around Napa and out here in the beautiful Lush, you can feel the difference with the 22s versus the 18. There's just a whole lot less roll, and it feels very planted on the ground. And I like that the fact that it's electric, so you have a really low center of gravity, and it feels stable. It doesn't feel like it weighs almost 9,000 pounds or so. Well, we don't have the exact numbers because GM says that we haven't released it yet, but we expect it to be about between 8,000 and 9,000 pounds. It feels like it's about 55, 6,000 pounds. It feels like there's weight behind it, but it doesn't feel as heavy as the number 9,000. Like you'd expect in any big domestic product from GMC, it's very smooth to drive. The air suspension really makes this thing waddle when it's normal, which is nice. It's comfortable. It doesn't feel stiff whatsoever, even with the 22s. As I mentioned, it does feel planted, but it's cool because it's a lot more streetable than I expected when I'm driving it. I feel sure-footed, even when I rip around these corners, and Ian almost threw up because he does get car sick. Now this does have 830 horsepower and 1,200 pound-feet of torque, so it's very easy to get yourself into trouble. I don't have to press the gas too much to actually move this big monster down the road. But it does have this droning noise a little bit. It's this electric EV noise, which is not the only vehicle that does it. A lot of vehicles have this noise, and it does sometimes get a little bit irritating. But that's why you have the music on, I guess. Now, when we were doing the Watts for Freedom launch, I will tell you that it does track inward, it does camber very, very heavy, and it does pull. So if you're steering a little bit off, it does pull you in that direction, left or right. You really have to hold the steering wheel and sort of be very, very cognizant of where you're pointing it. Also, the steering is a little bit heavier than a Denali and heavier than, say, an Escalade. It's not as light as those vehicles. It does have a little bit of weight to it when you turn, especially when I was ripping back and forth and doing these U-turns for Ian to film these sexy shots. Now, one thing people don't talk about is charge time. Nobody's really brought this up. So the numbers approximately are about 170 kilowatt hour battery that this has, and obviously you've got the big truck, it's about 205 or so, and that takes a long time to charge. Like, think about this. In the Tesla, it takes me about an hour at 250 kilowatt hours because it does taper down. This thing does take 350 kilowatt hour charge, so yes, better than the Tesla for sure. It does have 800 volt architecture, which is amazing, so you can pump a lot of power into it. But I expect it to be still about an hour and a half to 2 hours to fully charge it, which is pretty crazy. Now, it does give you over 300 miles is what they say. We haven't had time to test that. We don't have this for a very long time. This is actually a pretty rushed video in terms of the time we get when we want to film these things. We're not baller enough yet to have vehicles for a full day like some of the bigger channels. So if you don't mind smashing the subscribe button to actually give us some leverage, some depth when it comes to our conversations with manufacturers to get product for a longer period of time, that would really help. So for me, the real driving impressions is not turning, is not the suspension, it's really how you use this on a daily. How is this thing to park? How is this thing to drive into tighter areas? And Hummer nameplate is designed to just be big and monstrous and gigantic and Goliath-like. But this is actually smaller to drive than the Yukon Denali XL. That feels very boatish. This feels just more capable. It's definitely wider with these tires, they're massive, and the way this thing looks, it's big and bulky, but when you drive it in the city, it's actually pretty good. Now they're up like crazy, everybody's buying GMC products, they're getting a whole bunch of market share, and I expect this to do very well as well, except for those that find this to be a little bit too much. It's too much waste of resources, there's a lot of battery going on here, there's just a big behemoth of a vehicle be driving down the street, and everything's getting smaller and being more environmentally conscious, and this isn't exactly it, although it is EV. It's in the right direction, but still people will definitely hate. We are in beautiful Napa Valley, not warm California. The beautiness here is epic, and that matches this. The all-new GMC Hummer EV SUV. Now, when I thought we were coming here to launch the Hummer, I'm like, it was just launched last year, wasn't it? But it's different today. This is 9 inches shorter and designed for the family. With a starting price of $80,000 US, this is $110,000 because it has a fancy off-road package that we will get into. But I will tell you that the new Hummer will actually make a bit of a difference because it's not that obnoxious in its SUV format like the original pickup truck that was launched last year. And that's important because they have the Denali namesake or name brand, and that's a real volume pusher for them. And this might actually do the trick and become the next volume pusher. Now, you probably want to know when you saw it is what color is this? It's called Moonshot Green, and it's a matte finish. It looks amazing. Now, you can't get it in a 7-passenger. It's only sold as 2 rows. So the front seats and the back second row. There is no third seating option on this. It is tri-motor, which means you have a motor in the front, and then you have a motor per side on the back, which is super cool. The other part to know is how much power does it make. It makes 830 horsepower and 1,200 pound-feet of torque. It propels its big booty to 60 in 3.5 seconds. That is super quick. Now, it's supposed to give you just over 300 miles of range. That's exactly the same as the Volvo EX90 we just reviewed. So that's giving you some perspective of what this big beast does in terms of range. That is awesome. To the front of the all-new Hummer EV SUV. Now, there's not much of a difference in the front end of this than the big bad boy, but we'll start right here. If you notice, the headlights obviously have a massive H pattern built right into them. And in the center, well, you can't miss this. it says Hummer. But it's not only Hummer, it's the way it's backlit and the way the light comes through that is amazing. Now when it's charging, you have the headlights doing this fancy little light action. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Moving down from the lights, you have this body colored panel that goes from end to end. And then you have this parallelogram design that sort of meets up in the middle that gives you a fancy triangle. Moving down from there, it stays bulky and big, and that is where your camera is hidden, right there in this grille. Again, more parallelograms and another triangle. So the cameras give you 17 different camera angles, and then when you move down from there, of course you have your radar technology, but these things are a statement right here. These D-hooks are huge, and we actually use them to pull out one that was stuck, believe it or not, in the mud, because it's been raining right here in Napa Valley like crazy. And when it does rain, I will tell you, it's got some unique wipers. Check these things out. Yep, you got it. 3 wipers. Now I know it's the 3 lights because it's wider, and when it's wider than a certain width, you have to put 3 lights letting people know that it's wider than a normal vehicle. Yep, regulations. To the side of the all-new Hummer EV SUV. Now, let's start at the top here, and I can tell you these are not 22s, these are 18s, because this has the off-roading package that costs an extra $5,000. You see, it'd be $105,000, but with this package that gives you 18s, 5 skid plates, and a fancy rear differential, you spend the extra $5K, and it is well worth it if you live in a rougher terrain. If you're at the street all the time and you live in a big city, you probably don't need it, because the 22s also look pretty sick. This front fender is 6 inches wider than where the door panel is. It really bumps out and widens the front look of this Hummer EV SUV. Now you probably notice that the suspension can be raised and lowered because it has full air suspension. The air suspension actually has a track of 13 inches. That means from the bottom to the top, it can raise itself 13 inches. You have 16 inches of ground clearance, and it can wade in over 2 feet of water, which is pretty cool considering this is just a daily driver SUV from GMC. Now moving back, you will see it says Hummer EV right on the middle of the door panel, and your side mirror is also body colored with a piano black strip that runs across it to make it look wider. I like how they have these details right here, and when I stand here I have to laugh at these 3 wiper blades. It just kills me when I see 3 wiper blades. Anyways, you've got your 360 camera right here. Now for those that know the channel, it's very important to know that when the key's in your pocket in this Hummer, you can walk to the front and back doors and get inside of it, which is nice. You'll also notice that it has coupe-like doors. There's no frame around the doors. Now moving down, you actually have different side step bars in this model than the regular model because this has the off-road package. Now when you look up, you will see it has piano black from end to end. It makes the lines look really clean, but what you don't know is that these tops are actually removable, and when you remove them, you actually have spots to put them in the front. Now we didn't talk about the front, so let's talk about it. Sorry, there's a button I gotta find. 1 second, bro. Open up front, and this is where you are hiding your spot to hide the T-tops. It even has a fancy picture telling you that. Now, it's important to note that a lot of vehicles are actually stopping giving you fronts because of crash safety, but not GMC. You have it still. Maybe in the future they'll get rid of it, because you think about it. If you have all these bags in here and you get hit from the front, isn't it safer when you have an engine there that has all the crash zones? Now moving up from these massive quarter panels is the stars and stripes. I love how GMC and the Hummer is all American, and there's American flag right there letting you know that the boss has arrived. Seriously speaking, this is one of the best looking SUVs to come out of GMC in my opinion. GMC has been really pumping up designs, and this Hummer EV SUV is beautiful, and that's why the side is so important for me. The front is amazing and the back is also amazing, but the side to me is primo. Now let's talk about mechanicals and power. Now there's 2 motors in the back like I talked about. You have a differential. When you lock the rear differential, it actually is done virtually? Nah, it's not done mechanically. It's done through software. This is how it's done. You have an electric motor on this side and an electric motor on that side. There's no mechanicals connecting them together. It's all done by software. And that means one wheel tries to move at the exact same speed as the other wheel, all done through, you got it, software on a Hummer. To the back of the all-new Hummer.
If we start at the top, you will see it has a black, clean shark fin. You have 3 individual red LEDs letting everybody know that you are nice and wide. And then moving down from there, it has this H third brake light. Little small nugget. I love it. Moving down from there, you have a camera with a washer nozzle. And then you have this massive wide rear window that is tinted. But how can we not forget this huge big rear tire? This is the statement look from the back of the Hummer. But the cool part is this button. When I push this button, it's actually a powered rear tailgate. Sick. Now when the trunk lid is open, it exposes this, the nice big tow hitch with all your wiring attachments to the right of it. You actually can't see it when the trunk lid is closed, and you can do that by pushing this button again. Sick. For those wanting to know how wide this tire is and the dimensions, it's 305 wide, 70 deep, and then of course 18-inch wheels. Then you have this magnesium piece that houses a beautiful fancy camera. But design speaking, besides this Bronco-esque rear tire, is how Range Rover it is. It's bespoke, it's classy, it's luxurious. Look at these lines. This is very, very Range Rover. It's like not a Hummer. It's pulling away from its original concept. It's just getting more 2023 and luxurious.
Front seat of the all-new Hummer EV SUV. Let's jump on in. Now, look at the door panel. It's a two-tone door panel with Hummer EV imprinted on the gray portion of it, but you have rose gold right around the trim on the middle part of the door. Now, as far as storage goes, you can fit 2 Fiji water bottles as shown right here. You have a nice big grab handle on the door itself, and then another one up here on the A-pillar. Now the dash is very squared off, but a lot of rose gold, and it's a nice touch when it comes to the Hummer EV SUV. You have a 12.3-inch driver's display, and then you have a 13.4-inch display for everybody else in the vehicle. And when you click the drive modes in this 13.4-inch screen, it is done by Unreal Engine. So if you're a gamer, you know all about that, and check out this cool graphics. Super awesome. Now you do have 4 T-tops where you can remove these top panels. This one is lightly tinted. You can get ones that are fully dark so you can't actually see out of them at all. The sun was blaring above us and we could not see inside. It was pretty wild, but this one you can. There is a lighter tint, and I prefer these over the fully dark ones. It does not have heads-up display, but it does have 3 cool funky wipers when you're driving behind here. It just makes you laugh every time you see these 3 wipers come up. There's also a rear view mirror camera, which is amazing. I love the tech that they put in the Hummer, and I also like it that the whole car industry is sort of adapting this rear view mirror camera. Now, as far as the seats go, they do hold pretty well. They have this cool Hummer EV in the middle here, the logo behind the back. It's not made from a leather material. In the middle, it is perforated, but it's definitely a lot more leather feeling in the middle than the sides. The sides are a very clean, durable, sort of plasticky feel, if I might say that. It's just more like off-roading, camping kind of vibe on the sides, but in the middle it does feel for sure like leather. They are heated and cooled, the seats on both sides. So let's talk about the famous Super Cruise. That's GMC's semi-autonomous driving on highways, which essentially means that it drives by itself, it can change lanes very easily, and does up to 200,000 miles, except now it does 400,000 miles. So that is amazing. But there's one thing about Super Cruise I don't like, and it's not the Super Cruise itself, it is the steering wheel. Now they have this plastic insert that's in the top of the steering wheel, and it's cool that it's there because it's very easy to see, but it's problematic for guys like me that just like to drive like this. This plastic insert does get a little bit annoying to your hands over time. I've been driving this for about 2 days now, and yeah, I would say that I'm starting to drive like this. I'm not exactly driving like this or this. It's always on the side here when I'm doing the twisties, or like this. I'm no longer driving with my palm. Now moving down from the screen, you do have all your HVAC controls, and it's done by pushing buttons up or down. Very easy to use, nice and big, and good texture when I feel it with my hands. And moving down from there, you have 5 buttons, one of them being your heated steering wheel. Now this does not have any lockers buttons because this does not have the $5,000 package, which is the extreme off-road package, which gives you the lockers front and back. And again, the back ones are simulated, they're done through software, not mechanically. Now, when we did the walk around on the outside, that was done on the extreme package. This one is the on-road package, so it's missing those buttons. Also, you'll notice the wheels are different on this than the other one we filmed. Now, moving down onto your center console, you do have a bit of a plasticky feel here. Feels a little bit cheap at this price point, but hey, I guess they're gonna be open for the most part all the time. You do have your wireless charger, your USB, and your USB-C all right here, and then you can close it off, voila, off you go. Then you have your typical GM shifter in their luxury product. It's all done through this, reverse neutral drive, park, bam, right there. But the most important piece are your modes down here. This is where you hit your crab walk on the left side. That's where you raise and lower your vehicle. And then if you want to change your different drive modes, you simply just turn it left and right, and that's when the fancy graphics show up on the big screen. So what about the center console armrest? Well, it's decently padded, good for your elbows. It will not give you any sort of pain on this little elbow that has arthritis. It does have a spot in the center to put your phone. It is not charged, but whatever. And then underneath here, how much storage do you have? Voila, there it is. And you get this little tray to put all your little nuggets wherever you want to put them. Now we're on the highway driving back to San Francisco, and I want to talk about this little paddle shifter on the left-hand side, which has a little diagram of a battery. That, when you hit it, actually has braking. So I don't use it, I don't actually use one pedal driving, I just use that to brake. So I'm accelerating, and I hit the button, and it automatically brakes for me and regens the battery. Cool stuff. Also, this thing is a box, so of course there's wind noise. I'm doing 75 miles an hour, so listen to the sound of the wind. Now let's take a quick dive in the 13.4-inch screen. I do really like, right off the bat, you have 6 virtual buttons that are hard. They stay there, they don't go anywhere. On the top, you have your cameras. When I hit it, voila, you have all your modes on the bottom. Very typical GM. On the Denali Yukon, they have the exact same setup. Same with the Sierra Ultimate that we've reviewed them both. Very clean cameras, nothing to complain about here when I hit all these different buttons on the Hummer EV SUV. Now next up is CarPlay, and this is how it shows up on the screen. And on the right side, you have all of the different widgets you can hit to change what you'd like to see. And the third button is a picture of a Hummer, and it gives you a lot of vehicle info, especially if you're off-roading. It tells you your altitude, your drive modes, the latitude, longitude, your coordinates, sec, and then of course around the vehicle, and then your G-forces, the drift angle, all the great features that it has. Now when I hit that button, look at this, more stuff, pitch and roll, weighting, whew, this is crazy. And then you have your 6 auxiliaries down here, and then you have a camera button, and when I hit it, voila, there are your cameras. And when I get out of this, the next one down is cameras again, and then you have that. Check this out. You can actually air down mode where you can set a target pressure for all 4 of your tires and then select start. On every single tire, when you deflate it, you'll get a honk. That's cool. Next one down is your map and your navigation. This is the native map and navigation. Obviously super easy to use, but we're in 2023, so I won't get too deep into that. Then you have your audio. And then my favorite part about GM products now is that the home button is right on the bottom. When I hit it, you have 8 boxes and 3 more boxes. Just easy, big buttons. And I like how GMC on their new products now have that right on the bottom, because when my arm is on the shifter, I simply just put my hand here and boom, everything's in front of me. Back seat of the all-new Hummer EV SUV. A lot of room back here. It's nice and roomy, and it feels airy with these T-tops that you can remove. Nice lighting back here. Seats are comfortable for sure. Very easy to clean. It's perforated on this side, perforated on this side, in the middle. On the middle here, it does not feel that way. It has the same scratchy style, I wouldn't say plastic, but very durable material, very easy to clean. Now on the door panel, you do have a big grab handle here and one on the B-pillar right there. You do have storage for 1 bottle, and then a little cubby underneath there for some snacks. And then in the middle here, same thing. You do have some storage pretty deep for probably about 3 or 4 foot-long hot dogs right there. Then you have a USB and USB-C easily accessible there. You have your HVAC controls, which are pretty typical GM, nothing out of the ordinary. This is not a luxury feel back here. You get that more in the front seat. Now there's a lot of room again back here. You do have pockets behind both the driver and passenger seat. And yeah, everything else feels groovy back here. But let's talk about cup holders, and we've got 2 over there. And then what about headroom? Well, I'm 5'9" and I have a lot of room. So somebody that's 6'3" will definitely fit back here, no problem. Do these seats recline? No, they do not. They simply just fold forward and fold pretty flat.
Now, once the trunk is open, how much room do you have? So as far as width here, you have a lot of width, a big opening. You've got exactly 4 feet. How much height do you have? Well, from the bottom floor all the way to the top, you have about 29 inches. Now, there's not a ton of room underneath here, but you do have the beautiful design right on this rubberized rear parcel shelf, I guess you can call that, or load floor shelf. Now, the other thing it doesn't have is it doesn't have air suspension in the back where you can raise it by hitting a button. Of course, there's air suspension on the Hummer, but there's no button here to lower it. And one of the complaints people have, especially in all the reviews that I've watched from the guys that had it before us right here in California, is that the load floor is really high. So to put something from here onto the back, it's high. Well, hello, this is a Hummer. This is so different than everything else out there. I know that's important for you guys to really hound on, but it's not really that important. This is a Hummer. Get used to it. Now, you do have 2 buttons back here, and those are for the second row seats to fold them down. When I hit the buttons, the seats do fold down. Voila, like that. Now, as far as depth goes, you have just about 40 inches from the second row all the way back to the sill. And then as far as the back of the front seat, you've got 77 inches. Well, that concludes our trip right here in sunny California with this beautiful 2024 Hummer EV SUV. So if you guys like this review, but more so like Ian's cinematography to make this look as pretty as possible, let us know in the comments below. But personally speaking, I love the way this Hummer EV drives. It's nice and smooth. Now, I know there's gonna be a lot of haters saying there's a ton of wasted resources, and that is partially true. But for you, hey, we wasted the resources.